Bonjour, Joe.
Bonjour.
Welcome back.
Thank you for having me.
No,
Thank you
listen,
for having me.
welcome back. We had a good old, we had a good old chat last time, didn't we? The month
We
before
did.
last. And you have got. I'm trying to. So April's comics. You sent me your list,
Yep.
and what I've tried to do because I'm a big Marvel fan, and I know you love it. What I've tried to do is I've tried to balance you out, not because I'm not agreeing with your decisions, your choices, but just to give people a flavour of everything that's about. Well, maybe recommend something to you that you might want to pick up.
Yeah.
And
Totally.
you're, by the way, loving. Before we get going, loving you being brave to do the old live stream.
Oh, I actually really like it. It's
Really?
can be hard depending on the chat and
Yeah,
like how many people are there,
yeah,
but I do enjoy it. It's fun, especially when there are more people there and the chat's kind of lively. It definitely makes for a fun
yeah, yeah.
conversation.
I've got to get my head around the tech of it all. I've got to get on the. I've got to get off a Zoom and get on a Jetstream or something, which is compliant with doing all that. Whereas
Yeah.
I tried doing it once. Anyway, you kick us off, mate. With your have you had a good month of comic book reading?
Pretty good. Yeah. I mean, this time I only have comics that came out in April, not from 2000.
You stickler, you.
Thank you. Um, why don't we start with
Go on.
Avengers Twilight issue number 5.
Excellent.
Yep. So we're at the penultimate issue for this short little 6 issue run.
Yeah,
Daniel Acuni's art is always amazing, right? Continues to be great. Like there's no real qualms about it. Again, it's very dark at times in terms of like the actual picture itself is dark. And I think that's because one, there's a lot of fighting and it's also painting like again, very dystopian world, I think.
yeah.
Um, but I haven't had any issues like I did have in like issue 2 or 3 where it was kind of confusing. Like it was almost too dark and it was kind of confusing how they were going from panel to panel. But the story's great. Basically the US is about to get nuked and I don't want to give away too much for the most
Oh,
part,
that's
but
it.
it was a
Yeah.
great story. It was a great
But
story.
it
I'm
says,
excited to see where it all ends. I mean, we've got old superheroes, old
yeah,
Steve Rogers. Um, Tony Stark is just a head that is now attached to a robot in an Iron Man suit.
excellent point.
We've got Thor, who looks good as ever. Um, a different Hawkeye, an old um, Luke Cage, who's just walking into battle at the end of this last issue. So that should be interesting. But yeah, I'm excited to see. But it almost seems like they're not gonna win. So I'm curious to see what happens.
Oh, and it's the end
Yeah, there's only one more issue. So
because I do like the title. No, as in the end, it's an end
oh
of the line story.
yeah,
You
pretty
know,
much.
like
It seems
Old
that way.
Man Logan or you know,
Yeah. Yep.
blah blah blah.
Yep.
It's that Dark Knight Returns. It's that end of the line story, which and Acuna's artwork reminds me of um, there was a book called a Marvel book called Earth X a long, long while ago, which was a similar setup. I wouldn't say the same. It was more of an Elseworlds, like an alternative universe, rather than the end of this one.
Yeah.
And his artwork, and it was more or less a black and white
Okay.
comic, which was quite jarring. I think a
Yeah.
lot of people found it jarring. I'm trying to think of his name. It's going to be down there somewhere. I won't rummage, but because I've got this weird they've done this weird trade paperback with this plastic case.
Oh, interesting.
Oh, it was yeah, brilliant. Cost a gazillion quid and
Of
should have
course.
should have paid the mortgage. But anyway, no, that is a good that's a good kickoff. So you thoroughly enjoyed it. It's been a
Yeah, I
fun
think
series so far.
yeah, if you're not again, it's only gonna be 6 issues. And if you're wait, I mean, at this point, you could either just wait for the trade to come out eventually or like to get it on Marvel Unlimited, but it's worth reading. I think so. I think it's a really good story.
would you say it's only, and this is not being detrimental to
Mhm.
it at all, but would you say it's only worth reading if you're into Marvel? Like, it doesn't offer you, does it offer anything to a reader that's mostly DC and isn't really into Captain America and Thor?
That's a
Or
good question. I would say maybe that depends on your past reading history in DC, because I
mm,
think the biggest connection, we talked about this last time. I keep forgetting the DC story. Um, that's people are comparing it to, that it's very similar. Um,
oh, not Crisis, is it?
no,
Um,
it's like again, end of the world kind of
yeah,
apocalyptic
where
ish.
I'm not, see it was a good question, but where I'm not a DC fan, I was
Yeah.
genuinely curious to see if, like,
I think it would do well because you
jump in.
don't necessarily need, you're fine. However, I think if having some background knowledge to who these characters are is helpful because they're older now and it kind of relies on your knowledge to at least know who they are a
And
little
that's
bit.
what I was thinking. That's what I was thinking, Joe, to be fair.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, so perhaps just one for the Marvelites, really.
Maybe. Yeah. If you have a general idea of who the general Avengers are, you might be fine.
Yeah, yeah. So leading on from that, a, a comic that I thoroughly, I'm having a problem with my new teeth. I thoroughly recommend World's Finest.
Okay.
And if anyone, listen, if you've watched any one of my videos in the past 2 years, we're 2 years in, 26 issues in. Mark Wade on the writing for every issue, Dan Mora on the artwork for every issue.
Nice. That's good.
Between them, if you like superheroes, Batman and Superman, my God, they sum it up.
Who's in the middle?
This
Who's that
issue,
little?
that's Batmite.
Okay.
What they've done, what Mark Wade has done, is just dropped in this absolutely ludicrous story. These characters, so Mr. Miziplich and Batmite, they're from the fifth dimension, right?
Okay.
They are facsimiles of, they are fans.
Um,
It's a weird and wonderful tale he's weaved. But that is how you do a a very tongue-in-cheek, without being a throwaway, without insulting the audience,
yeah.
by introducing, so Batman is still Batman, but what they've done is they swapped. So Batmite is with, in this issue, Batmite is with Superman, and they're fighting the big foe. And
Okay.
you've got all the other DC villains in it, and they've also got their fifth dimension little equivalents.
Yep.
The best bit for me, and spoiler alert if no one's read that and you haven't read it yet, but spoiler alert, the best moment in this comic is that the fact that um, Superman has got Batmite with him. They all separate to tackle the enemies, and Superman has got Batmite, and Batmite is just the ultimate uber fan of Batman, right? From the fifth dimension, he loves everything Batman does and everything. But in between that, there are moments where like Clark is trying to explain to Batmite, like, you don't really know Batman. You like know him as a comic fan, maybe,
Right.
right? But there is a glorious moment where Superman needs to face this foe and he doesn't know how to do it, and it's a kryptonite involved and all the rest of it. But Batmite says, I've got a suit of armor for you. But obviously, because he's Batmite, it's designed as a bat suit. So
Mhm.
you've now got, and I thought it was
Oh, that's fun.
absolutely glorious. So
Yeah.
you've got Superman going, as soon as Batmite goes like that, because it's all to do with like magic and,
Yeah.
kind
Yeah.
of,
Sure.
so he clicks like that and he goes, yeah, I've got armor for you. And he goes, click. And the next panel is Superman in this bat armor. And he's looking like that. And he goes, yeah, it had to be. And I literally laughed out loud reading this comic. Honestly,
Nice.
It was so much fun, but I've got to admit, like the question I asked you about the Marvel stuff, if you've got no background in it, I don't know. The difference being with this comic, I'm assuming that everyone is familiar with Batman and Superman, but those fifth dimension characters, and you know how long I've been reading comics, because I haven't been reading DC, I've just got that tiny little disconnect with these fifth
Mhm.
dimension characters. I get it. I get it. And Mark Wade, oh, come on, if he can't tell you, if he can't explain the story to you as the reader, then no one can.
Right.
But nevertheless, I think there are DC fans out there that are absolutely like getting more of a cracking read than even I am.
I'm sure. I'm
And
sure.
that book, by the way, has been top of my list, world's finest. All you Marvel fans out there, which I am one of, if you only want to try one DC book, pick that up.
Nice.
100%.
I would definitely be lost in terms of like the villains. Like I know who Batman and Superman are, but I would definitely be lost
No,
villain wise.
I'll,
Sort
I'll,
of. Sort of.
I'll give you, I might give you some little jump on points.
Okay.
Little jump on points where literally, no, you don't. I mean, Sinestro is a Green Lantern villain. I
Mhm.
kind of knew that, the bloke with a big pink head,
Yeah.
but I'm not a DC fan. But the larger tales that Mark Wade has been weaving have just been great superhero fare. They really have.
Well,
So,
going off of that, at the
go on.
beginning you had mentioned Wade and who's doing the art?
Dan Mora.
They've been on it for 26 issues. Same artist,
Yeah,
same writer.
love it.
Let's go opposite direction. I know we chatted a bit about that. This
Mm,
one.
where are you going?
Oh, Ultimate Spider-Man issue number 4.
No, go on. You,
Uh,
you started it, Joe. You started it. But no, come on then. You fired a
so
shot.
so I don't think part of this is probably quite possibly a little bit of my fault. I'll give myself a little bit of the blame.
Come on.
Chichetto's been writing or doing the art in the last 3 issues.
Gloriously, yeah.
I expected him to be the artist on this one. Why would I expect anything different? He
Exactly.
also has been doing all the covers.
Yeah,
He did the cover on this one.
yeah.
So in my mind, I was just going to pick this up. Marco Cicchetto is going to do the art, and he has a very specific style that you've been paying attention to if you've been reading these issues.
Yeah.
I open it up and I go, "This is different," and I'm like, well, let me." But as I go on, I go, "Oh, this is different." I don't mind the art style. We'll say that. I don't mind the art style. The thing that was most bothersome to me is the inconsistency of like the faces from panel to panel and then from page to page. You can literally go from a panel of Gwen Stacy to MJ to Gwen Stacy again, and they're different.
Yeah.
Like Gwen Stacy's face is different. And it's almost like the same front on angle. And I'm like, why is this so different? It's the same, it's like the same part here. I don't understand why it's so different. And it just like, I think it really threw me for a loop and just really put a sour taste in my mouth on the issue.
It's so jarring, isn't it?
It is.
You want to enjoy it, like you've had your 3 issues in, and even if it's been uneven, even if you think, all right, issue one was slow burn. Okay. Issue two, oh my God, that cracked. That
Yeah.
cracked. Issue three followed it up. And then you think, right, you just want to be entertained with issue four by now, whether it's a chapter of a book or an episode of a TV series, by whatever version of number four that is, you're ready, you're in.
Yeah.
Like, I've tried you for 3 issues, chapters or episodes. I'm in, and they swap out the artist.
Yeah.
And I do try to be diplomatic nowadays. And Messina can draw better than I can, the artist on this issue of Spider-Man. but it's poor art. It's poor sequential storytelling. When you get an artist that can take the writer's words, and some, you'll have writers like Alan Moore that will write 4 pages of writing for 1 page of art. And the artist is going, oh my God, this is going to take me like 6 months to draw because I've got to get all these details in. Or you go Marvel style, when Stan Lee will go to Jack Kirby. The Fantastic Four have a fight with Doctor Doom. Galactus turns up and the Silver Surfer saves the day. 36 pages later, Kirby's got to do that.
Yeah.
Somewhere in between. Somewhere in between. That's where these storytellers like come to the fore.
Yeah.
I'm drifting off the tracks a bit.
Yeah.
But
Wow.
but I was equally as disappointed as you.
I
What I
think that
was
really ruined the issue for I don't want to say ruin. Ruin's a strong word, but that really put a sour taste about the issue in
strong
my
word,
mouth, really. It was just like I think
but
if the art might have been better, I might have enjoyed it more.
see,
However,
next question, you just got ahead of me there. So my
yeah,
next question for you, Joe, is if Chichetto drew this issue, do you think it'd be any better?
I think I would have enjoyed it more. For me, I'm not sure the issue would have been all that much better. More enjoyable on my end, for sure, I think.
Yeah.
I don't mind the change of pace. I don't mind just dialogue. Like I don't necessarily need an action scene. It's okay if there isn't one in my mind. I do agree with you though. By this point, we should be getting along. We're 4 issues in. I think for the amount of dialogue that we had, we didn't get much out of it.
No.
We learned that again, Oscorp is kind of shady.
Yeah.
Um, Harry has told Gwen Stacy that he's Green Goblin,
Yeah.
and that MJ is helping Ben and JJJ with their name and marketing of their paper. And we learned that oh gosh, little May does not like JJJ.
Oh God, yeah. So yeah, I found this egregious, and it's only because, and I'll tell you what it is, and it's where we met, Joe, on Comic Threads, right? That has turned me around and it's lightened me up a bit, because it's kind of, I was getting so jaded and going down such a negative rabbit hole of moaning about everything, rather than looking like that, instead of sitting up and looking at all the good, because there has never been a period of comics where everything's been great. Don't let
Oh,
anyone ever tell you that. Whether it's the golden age, silver age, modern age, like even when I'm going through my back issues and I'm going, oh look, and I'm into a run of the Defenders, and I love that. I've got a little soft spot, but
sure.
it's nostalgia. They're not the best comics ever written.
Yeah.
What I find most egregious with this kind of stuff is that they're dressing it up as something more. When back in the day you would have an issue of a superhero story where it was all going off, it was all kicking off, and you'd have some lame Z villain, uh, Z-list villain, and it would just be that. At least it would be a beginning, middle, end. And I'm getting a bit fed up with, and I know they are all chapters in a trade paperback. I get that. But nevertheless, this was so egregiously boring. So boring. 9 panels per page of faces talking. Now, Alan Moore, and I know I've done a couple of thread posts and in my videos and all that, but I will say it again. When you've got writers like Mark Millar, Alan Moore, um, I'm trying to think of some of the great, say Jeff Johns, Mark Waid, Tom King, even Tom King. And I've had my little doubts with him, with Tom King on Wonder Woman. He'd done a couple of issues, but on balance, yeah, it was just that issue that led you into the next one. It can't be, it can't be an issue of whatever they are, 26 pages now, 24 pages of of talking heads. It can't be. That
It was
can't
just
way to
Yeah.
move story along. It can't
Right.
about characterization. I understand that, but weave that into, so we've got four issues. Weave all those talking heads
Yeah.
um into the story. Like, and I know on your list is Spectacular Spider-Man. And what I've been enjoying about that book is the fact that the first issue, and I know that's not the month we're discussing, but I know you've got issue 2 as well. Both issues are great. They're
They are.
spot on. But what it is, it's the first issue is like Miles Morales and Peter Parker going to the coffee shop. How
Yeah.
boring. How boring can you get? But in the middle,
But
it was like then they're walking into the coffee shop and then they're fighting the whatever villain it was. Oh, come on, that's comics. That's
it is.
pure, pure
Yeah.
comics.
I
Not
think like for
not
me
dressed up.
too, it's I agree. Like weave some of that stuff in, right? Like we've only seen MJ for I don't know, 3, 4 panels, maybe 5 at most so far in all the first 3 issues up until this one, right? Like weave some more of that in. Like I can understand not revealing Gwen Stacy just yet because we haven't gotten that much of Green Goblin or Harry yet, to be honest. But we don't need like it really just fleshed out like again Gwen Stacy and Harry's relationship and how it's very opposite or polar opposite, it seems like, of MJ and Peter, right? That if anything else, that's the big thing that you get from this issue,
Yeah, and
which is
it's really
yeah.
false. And that should have been in the background.
I think for me at this point now, right, we're in this new Ultimate Universe, and I just read Ultimate Invasion, which was from a while ago, but 4 big issues, like kind of setting all of
Yeah.
this up.
And good stuff. It was all good stuff.
It was. But we haven't heard from. I'm assuming we're going to get to some of this in the Ultimates when it comes out in June.
Yeah.
But I'm like waiting to see some sort of connection again. Like I feel like this is the one thing that, and maybe this is me just like being impatient between like Ultimate Black Panther. That's the one that has probably the greatest connection to everything else that we've seen because we're seeing Khonshu and Ra, and we're seeing like what they're doing. We got none of this in Ultimate X-Men. We've got none of this in Ultimate Spider-Man, really, besides we've seen Henry Duggery or Henri Duguery, however you want to say it. Um,
No, I like to say Henri Duguerin.
there we go. Right. But
I'm
like
Ian Joe. I can do that.
there, that's right. So I don't know. Maybe it's just me being impatient, but I feel like we're like, I don't know.
I don't think you are. I think you. Because I can see it, and I think that's why I've been so intrigued. This is why we get on so well. I think because I can see you want more good shit every week, like every month,
All right.
like the whatever you're invested in, and that's why in years gone by I've been so angry when people adapt my favorite characters. You wait till you're invested, not just for 1 year. You wait till you're invested for 40,
Yeah.
50, and someone not just gets it wrong, but swaps it out. That just says, do you know what? Thor isn't that anymore. He's her. And I know that's a controversial debate over there. And Jane Foster can be any character in the Marvel universe that the writers, imaginative writers, could make her. But why swap him out? Don't do that. Don't do that. I've got investment in you, mate, and I want delivery. But you're impatient. But getting back to on the sorry, I'm going off the track
No,
again.
it's all right.
You invite yourself to the train off the track
I
part.
I do. Yep.
Um, what you said is interesting about Black Panther because Brian Hill. This is the 10th issue of Blade, right? And it's the conclusion. And this has been such a great run by the same writer as Black Panther. And you know what? The boy gets on with it. He does not procrastinate. He
Yeah.
does not. And I've noticed that with Black Panther, you know. And I
Hmm.
know it's obviously an editorial oversight. I don't know who's in control of all the Ultimate books. But what you're saying about X-Men and Spider-Man, which I am enjoying both, by the way.
Yep.
But Black Panther, out of the three of them, is really rocking and rolling. I don't know about
It
you.
is.
He's
Totally.
proper getting on with it. Like you,
Yeah.
the two boys at the big, the bad guys in issue one, and then you've got Shirley and all the rest of them, and la la la. We're at issue three. My God, that's cracking on.
There's a lot.
Brian Hill has done exactly the same thing. And again, I hope Marvel can do a decently priced trade paperback, that Blade, because if you like the films, forget the comic character back all the way back to the 70s. If you like Wesley Snipes as Blade, anyone will love that trade paperback. But I'm with you. I'm with you on. Oh, but Ultimate Spider-Man, which we just kind of have given a bit of a thumbs down on.
Yeah, it's not the greatest issue.
It's not. But so, should we bring it back with? Wow.
Well, here's the thing, right? Because this is on my list. I know you liked it. You picked it up. I had it.
So bring it back. What did you love about this, mate? Because for me, it was old school. But what was it for you?
I
Because
haven't read too many.
you've only been
Yeah,
in for a year.
I
So
haven't read too many old school Marvel comics, right?
no.
Like when I started X-Men, I started with X-Men #1, and I realized that that was a mistake, according to most people.
Yeah. What? Oh, that doesn't make sense, does it? Start of issue one. Which you started with then?
But then, well, a lot of people say to go with Claremont's run, just like forget all the previous X-Men stuff.
Oh,
Anyway,
see what you mean. What start with the John Byrne?
yeah,
Oh, yeah, way back.
yeah. But then,
But
like
anyway,
I've read some of the original Fantastic Four, like we talked about,
yeah.
and there's a lot of describing, right? So if we want to talk about the complete opposite of a lot of dialogue, but done really well,
Yeah.
Shadow of the Green Goblin was done really well. It was interesting because I was not expecting the the first Green Goblin to not be a Green Goblin.
You- no, you can't say that. What do you mean? Hello? What do you mean?
Yeah.
I think what you're saying is it was very straightforward.
It was straightforward. I think what I mean is like from a visual
It's,
perspective,
it's
I was
easy.
expecting another like an exact replica of a Green Goblin in terms of like a physical appearance, but
Oh,
that's not what it was. He kind of
more
looks like he looks like an X-Men character. I don't know his name. But he's kind of like a wild I don't know. I don't know his name. I can't think of it.
no,
Um
can't see it. Doesn't matter.
but like in unless we haven't gotten to it yet, but like that was the guy that we saw in that issue. He kind of looks wolf-like, not really like a green goblin. I don't know.
Ah,
Anyway,
well, yeah. Oh, anyway, let's not pause it for too long. If this was a radio show, they they go
yeah,
cut adverts if you pause too long. So, but no, I thought I really, really
I
rated that.
like this.
You're not
Yeah.
joking. Like that was I thoroughly. But what I mean is the contrast, and I haven't got the copy of so the three Spider-Man books that were out, like comparing that to that, and what was the other one we was talking about?
Spectacular Spider-Man
Yeah, I've got to say,
3. Yeah, 3 on that one.
all the hype, and the talking up of that,
Yeah.
and just comparing them as an issue or a chapter or an episode of whatever you're talking about. Issue, chapter two, episode two of Spectacular Spider-Man, and there's still
It is.
my one what's the word I'm looking for? My one caveat to Spectacular Spider-Man is that whilst I am enjoying it, and I think I will continue to do so, while that, especially while Ramos is on it as well, because again, his storytelling, he's got such a dynamic style that suits Spider-Man so well. I don't know how long they can, as the actress said to the bishop, I don't know how long you can keep that up.
Yeah,
And
I don't know either. I feel like they need to get moving a little bit. They've kind of like it's been fun, it's good, right? But it's kind
yeah,
of stayed stagnant, right? It's not
but what are you doing
it's
now?
it's almost the same thing, right?
Yeah, yeah. So,
So
and it's been it's kind of been disjointed, and it's
A
nice, like
little.
the now and after and
Yeah.
before
Right.
and all
Yeah.
that. I like all that so far. But if
Yep.
you do a little 6 or 8 issue, and they're all segmented now, obviously for trade
Right.
paperbacks, I don't mind that. Like, come on, yeah, like you said, but what a shame that the Ultimate Spider-Man is that. So, would you say that the Ultimate Spider-Man issue 4 is your least favourite of the Ultimate books so far?
Out of just Spider-Man or including Black Panther and
Uh,
X-Men?
out of the 3 that they've had, and
Mm,
I mean, obviously,
yeah.
yeah, he's the
Yeah.
step up. So,
I'd say so. Out of all of the Ultimate stuff so far, yeah, that's probably my least favorite issue out of all of them. Like you said, Black Panther's been getting on pretty well. Like
rocking and
Brian
rolling.
Hill's not stopping. The last issue with like we finally got more of Killmonger and Storm, right? Like that was interesting. Um and even though Ultimate X-Men quote unquote is not, people are saying it's not X-Men, whatever. Either way,
Yeah,
it's a good story. Like I'm intrigued. I want to know more.
it's good storytelling.
Really is.
And again,
And again, so far, if we're if I want to compare it to the fourth issue of Ultimate Spider-Man, talk about telling a story with minimal dialogue. There's very, very little in that last second issue that came out. Even the first one, there's not much.
but beautiful, beautiful. That's where Peach Momoko is a cut above. There are ones that, whether you like their art style or not, there are comic artists that will rise above because of their storytelling abilities. It is sequential art.
Yeah,
They convey, and this is a visual medium. You can't, and and this is an eternal debate within old boys like me, for comic fans. And I'm sure, well, I'd hope it's a debate with new comic fans, because it's that question. Actually, I should do a video on it with you and a couple of the other comic friends,
there you
because
go.
what can I think a great comic artist can float a bad bit of writing. I think
Mhm.
you can get away with it if you've got a good artist.
Totally. I agree.
But the other way round, you could have Alan Moore write the best, or bring it back up to date. You could get Tom King to write the best Wonder Woman story ever. If you've got a crap artist on it, and I think we've kind of got halfway there, like looping it round a little bit to Ultimate Spider-Man 4. You loop it round a little bit. You've got Hickman. Neither of us can say he's a bad writer. We can't say.
No,
He has made. I think he's just tripped up himself with this one. I really do. And without proper editorial oversight, I think sometimes creators can get a little bit beyond themselves, and I think that's lost in all comic, in
yeah.
within all the comic publishers. Don't just give them free reign. You should have publishers and editors and some go. Oh, well, this is a bit boring, isn't it? Like
Yeah.
9 panel pages, like 20, like, oh, you know, what can we do about this?
I think Hickman, from the
Oh,
little bit that I've read about him, he's again very good at world building. He's good at developing the
Hickman,
long,
yeah,
like from the start to the end of like he sees the entire vision. But I
yeah,
feel like as he writes, it definitely starts to fall apart a little bit in specific
meanders.
spots. Like when I was reading X-Men in Krakoa, so like he started all of Krakoa and I think oversaw most of it, if not all of it. And he wrote House of X, Powers of 10 that started it all. And then he was the main writer on X-Men after that. And as I was going through some of the X-Men, I'm like, what is happening right now? Like we are I don't understand. I don't
Mm.
understand what's going on. And maybe that's again just me like maybe getting used to Hickman and his style. I don't know. Like again, he's not a bad writer by any stretch of the imagination. I
No,
think he's a
no,
very good visionary. I think he gets lost sometimes in how big picture things are, and as he's writing smaller, intricate stories, that's where he kind of loses his
mm,
shine from the little bit that I've read.
yeah, yeah. But so 2 out of 3 Spider-Man hits this month. I think so.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it was good.
It's good stuff. What have you shall I counter that
Yeah.
with
Go ahead.
a
Do a non-Marvel book.
all that Marvel talk?
Ugh.
I've got to balance it out. I'm balancing it out with a weird one. Batman Dylan Dog.
Okay.
Now, Dylan Dog is a nightmare investigator. This is a comic that was done in Italy. So obviously the DC have licensed out there. And Dylan Dog is the second most popular character in Italy, comics, Italian
Really?
comics. I think the
Okay.
first one is Tex or Rex or wherever it is. Anyway, so you've got let's say one of the most popular characters in Italy teamed up with one of the most popular characters in America. But I think this was done about 8 years ago. It's taken a long while.
Wow.
You get is a lot of bang for your buck. Like a $4.99 comic, and I think it's because they're reprinting, because this
Mm.
was obviously originally printed in Italian,
Yeah.
and Bruce Wayne has to travel to London with Alfred and the Batmobile, and he meets Dylan Dog, and spoiler alert, and John Constantine is involved because obviously Dylan Dog is a nightmare investigator as well.
Mm.
This is a nicely weird and wonderful, just a different take on Batman. If you just didn't want the same old, 2 issues in, and you've got you've got nearly 100 by issue 2, which this is. You've got nearly 100 pages of comic book,
Wow.
and the artwork, the Europeans' art style, that loose. They,
Yeah, sure.
they're not
Build
as
yourself up over there. Build yourself up over there.
yeah. They're not
I'm
as
just kidding.
closeted. They're not as closeted, and you know they've got a freer approach to it, and it's not it's not going to be it's not ever going to be my most favorite Batman interpretation, but it's certainly different. You know, when some writers get Bruce Wayne, like when they get the dark and the brooding, blah blah blah. Um, they the writer doesn't quite get that. The art is glorious, but nevertheless, it's like a little breath of fresh air. So, and yeah, really enjoying that. And again, I think DC will do a nice thick, and it's going to have to be thick because like I say, each issue is reprinting. I think they're 48. Yeah, they're a proper 48 pages, but like less cheap for $4.99.
Yeah, that's really good.
And a comic book you get there. And I think obviously it's because it's been printed before, they've paid the artists and writers and blah blah. That'll be a nice one. That'll be
Nice. Very nice. Actually, so for me, I had four Spider-Man Spider-Man
more
comics.
Spider-Man.
Yeah,
It
I
makes me
forgot.
want to sing the song, Joe. Which I'm not good
Spider-Man, Spider. No.
You did it instead, yeah.
Yeah.
I made you do it. Does
But
whatever Spider can.
Spider-Punk Arms Race issue number 3. I
Ah,
have that too. Again, part of a short 4-issue run.
yeah,
I think it's a fun little story. This one, because it's only 4 issues, they had to like fit a lot in.
yeah,
And I said it was a fun issue. There's a lot of action. This one, basically, the Spider-Punk and the rest of his bandmates are up against Doc Ock, and he's created this like Sentinel, octopus Sentinel basically,
yeah.
and it's again, there's a lot of action. It's good. There's not much breathing room. I feel like there's just so much action. There is a little bit. Kashuri is in there with that universe's Shuri with that universe's Ironheart, Riri Williams. She might not even be Ironheart in that one. I'm not even sure. The names are all different. I'm still slightly confused and like learning all the people. But anyway, um, there's a little bit of breathing room with them talking, but it goes right back to the action, and it's just like to me, there's just so much. It's still a good little story,
Is
but I
it
think it's because they had to put a lot in.
is it like an easy read, Joe? Like in between,
Yeah, pretty much.
like Spectacular Spider-Man. I find that an easy read. You kind of pick up, like this like Helen of Wyndhorn, and I think I recommended that last month, right?
Hmm.
Pumpkin Glorious. But you wouldn't want to read like that's issue two, and he's weaving a beautiful story, and the artwork is absolutely. I'm trying to find the words, but it's so gorgeous, the artwork by Bilquis Evely, that but in between it, you couldn't read a comic like that. You couldn't just have your whole stack every week, like full of stuff that's like, oh my God, here's
Yeah.
Hickman, here's Tom King, oh, here's the best other writer, oh, here's this great stuff. Like, sometimes you just want to, like, for me, Spectacular Spider-Man, you pick that up
Yeah.
and
Easy.
yeah. So would Spider-Punk be that in that
Yeah,
vein as well?
totally. It's not a hard or difficult read whatsoever.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, I haven't read any of it, to be fair.
Yeah.
Steered so far away from it. It didn't look anything that I would. I think. I mean, my own spider sense was tingling when I saw issue one, and I thought that's just going to wind me up. That's just all that's going to do is annoy me. That story.
That's fair.
So I just went on. There was plenty more comics on the shelf,
Yep.
and I went to those as well. And on that subject, Joe, you've got another one of a character that I steer clear of.
Must be Miss Marvel, is my guess.
See,
How did I know?
this is how we know we're getting on. We're connecting across the Atlantic, aren't we? Come on, convince me. I should be reading.
I don't know if you would read this one because this second issue was kind of, for me, it has nothing to do with Miss Marvel.
And what is
It
this?
has,
What is this one with her? And is it the X-Men or something? She's
so
because
she's in the X-Men now. She's in the X-Men, and basically she's in this world of post Orcus, and basically all the X-Men are in hiding essentially because the world doesn't like mutants anymore. But she's now the world knows that she's a mutant, and even her hometown of Jersey City doesn't really like her being around essentially.
any
So,
racist, any racist tropes thrown in there for good effect, or do they
um,
to mutant?
just all towards mutant
Which is good because
racism. But yeah, yeah,
when Claremont was doing the X-Men, and I know that was quite a flippant throwaway comment, but that was the whole point of the X-Men, was to
yeah.
kind of use
Oh yeah. I mean, there's a lot of like
to
at the beginning of the first issue. Yeah, it's like Miss Marvel kind of apprehending or fighting like a regular guy, and it's very like ironic where he's like, "You helped my son, you saved my son," like from a past like callback to a Miss Marvel issue,
yeah.
and like he's a doctor and he's in school now or whatever, like going to be a lawyer, and he's like, "That still doesn't mean that I don't like you and that you basically need to be." All mutants need to be eliminated essentially. And
Wow.
it's just like, well, all right then. Yeah.
Yes. Go vote. Go vote. Oh, I'm not going to say a political party. I'm not. But yeah, it's along those lines, isn't it? Which I think has always been there. I don't
Oh
mind.
yeah.
I don't mind. I think sci-fi and fantasy stuff has got an undercurrent of that. It doesn't mean that we can't enjoy it, but it does mean that the better writers find ways of weaving their thoughts and opinions into the stories.
Yeah.
I don't agree with. I don't. I don't agree with slavery. Right. Well, how do you write that into a story?
Right.
That's where the
Yeah.
good writers,
Yeah.
they don't have to say
No.
at the beginning, I don't agree with slavery. So
Yeah.
here is a black character that is going to fight the slave trade. You know, it's been. I'm not saying
Yeah.
that
It's built
story
in.
can't be told in a historical sense.
Right.
I just mean that there are writers that have got that political insight there.
Right. Yeah. They
Um,
build it in.
Tom King, for me, Tom King on that Wonder Woman run he's doing at the moment, and I didn't have it on my list, but just it has been on my radar this year. He is weaving in just spot on enough to know that 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 the politics is there. 100% the politics is there. In a way, the first couple of issues might have been too much on the nose,
Mm.
but nevertheless, he's not saying like I'm going to vote this way or you should vote this way he's just set his stall. He set
Yep.
up his stall and said, "Look, this is what could happen to and obviously he's used the Amazonians living in." And that's why I'm saying it was a bit on the nose in the first couple of issues, because they set it up was the Amazonian race. There was a section of them living within American society.
Mm.
They then hunt down.
I see. Yeah.
Right.
I
So
mean, does it get more obvious than that?
no, that's the first couple of issues.
All
So
right.
but after that, and that's when I was doubting it. I was thinking, oh mate, come on, don't make it. If you go one more step further in the third issue, like this is gonna. But no, he set his stall out those first two issues, and again that'll be a good trade paperback if you like your superheroes. He's done Wonder Woman very very well, very well. In,
Nice. Yeah, I think for me, going back to this Miss Marvel issue, the thing that got me is like, so Miss Marvel at the end of the last issue got transported to another world universe with Mojo, basically to the Mojo verse. And Mojo to me is just, it's always the same thing. It's
lame.
always obvious. I get it, right? It's the allegory for like entertainment executives and like feeding the wheel of to the people that are just like zoning out, right? To TV and all that stuff.
Yes,
I
yeah,
get it.
yeah.
I like that allegory, but it's always the same thing every single time with
Yeah.
Mojo. Doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't matter. It's on the X-Men, on the animated series in 97. I just read at the end of Avengers, um, Jonathan Hickman's Avengers Volume 1. He has like short 6 issues of like Sunspot and Sam Guthrie together that get transported to the Mojo verse. It's done very well, but again, it's always the same thing. And I'm like, we gotta go through, you know, Miss Marvel entertaining people, and if she doesn't, she's going to die, and then she somehow
Right.
gets out of
Yeah.
the contract, right? It's like, it's the same thing every time, and I'm like, why? Why do we have to use Mojo? I don't know why.
Who's writing that one, Joe?
So it's Sabir Pirzada along with Aman Vellani. So like the actress who plays Miss Marvel is also writing it.
All right. So, are you what is that? A hit or miss for you? This one?
I'd say it's in the middle. It's not the best issue
No,
that
Joe,
I've read.
you can't do that on my channel. You do that on your
Uh,
channel. You be diplomatic on your channel. No, I'm only joking. No, listen,
no, it's not the worst issue I've read, but
we're talking comics, so yeah. I mean, it's got to take a
I don't
lot.
know if I'd recommend it to other people. Again, it's only 4 issues, so I'm like, that goes along the lines with like my X-Men 97 issue number 2. It's like,
So you're not recommending that then? I thought you'd be all over this. You are the X-Men 97 man. Come on.
I am, but
And for
if
anyone
you're
who's watching this now,
watching,
I will give you a shout out, Joe,
oh,
to
thank you.
your videos on X-Men 97, the animated series. I can tell that the love you have for that, the show and the characters,
So
everything.
good.
Check them out and you carry on.
Thank you. I just think X-Men 97, this little comic run that they're going to do, again, 4 issues, is a good addition to watching the show.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Again, for anyone who doesn't know, it's like what happened in the year between Professor X leaving to the first episode of the show. So it's like great kind of like quote unquote bonus material if you're watching the show. It's not a bad story if you're reading it by itself without watching X-Men 97. And nor do you need to watch X-Men 97 to read this comic to understand what's happening.
No.
But I think your money could be spent, like if you are limited on a budget, if you had all the money to spend in the world, then go for it, whatever you want to do. But if you're limited on money to spend, I would say go spend it on Avengers Twilight or even Spectacular Spider-Man or Shadow of the Green Goblin. Like those are much better stories, I
No, you're
think,
right.
in
You know,
comparison.
you're spot on. Yeah, I know what you. Yeah, I think you're spot on. I would only balance that. Yeah, and I understand what you're saying. I would only balance that with if you are either watching X-Men 97 through nostalgia or you've just clicked on it because you've got dismal minus. Just you, that comic is is like an is maybe something that you wouldn't necessarily pick up, but you think, oh, like you said, bonus material. I'm trying to think of the other word. Like it's like an add-on. It's like a
Yeah, it's like what's it called? Can't
oh
think either.
yeah, it's like something that you're on a trip and you just want a souvenir,
Yeah,
a souvenir of the moment, and it's like,
sure.
well, this isn't an adaptation of the cartoon, but this is. Do you know what? Really enjoyed all those episodes of the cartoon, and I've now got a 4-issue run of the comic that because it's such a simple. What I do like is they've kept the concept simple,
Oh, very simple. It's
so that
beyond simple.
are you calling me stupid?
No, no,
Because
never, never.
only behind my back, yeah, but
No.
yeah. So I, I think it, it's on the money for where they're aiming for. What I see for a
Yeah,
change, you won't. In recent years, I haven't had many. No, correct myself. Any opportunities since Endgame. I haven't had any opportunity to praise Dismal Minus and Marvel and Disney. But what they have done recently, like in connectivity, is give everyone X-Men 97 and then back it up with a comic, a prequel comic that fits. Like if I had the shops back in the day, like now, if I still had those shops, my God, how many people's hands could I have put that comic in? They'd have come in for the action figures. This is what I'm, in the wider
yeah,
world.
yeah,
They'd have come in for the action figures or the poster or magazine or whatever it was. It would probably be toy driven.
yeah,
Say, look at that. That's a story over there. But now I'm hooking them. I'm like the dealer.
yeah,
I'm getting hooked on comics,
yep,
which is why I had my shops in the first place. I wanted to hook people in.
yep,
That would have been a beautiful moment to have a pile of those comics. They're not graphic novels, which I would have sold to older customers, but I would have been saying, Mum, he's going to love you if you get him that Cyclops figure and the Beast figure. But look, and I'll throw this one in for I'll knock a pound off. I'll throw that comic in. So I think Marvel have done a good job.
yeah. No, it's not a bad story.
Yeah, and they have done a good job. But I know what you
Yeah,
mean.
yeah, yeah,
It's beyond throwaway, though, isn't it? It's beyond. It has no
yeah,
meaning beyond that issue of the comic.
yeah. Not really, not really.
I know. I think I know. I'm getting a feeling that you want wider consequences, Joe. Don't you want it to connect, and you're like my other friend Joe, who I do the podcast with, who he does want it connecting. He wants continuity. He wants it linked, and he wants it meaning something over there and something over there. So I do.
I think it's for me. It's just, um, again, it's fine. It's like bonus material. There's nothing wrong with it. Again, I look at it as like because I am now at the point of having to make decisions of which comics to buy, just with the world costing $1 million to live, basically right now,
That
right?
was with
So
me.
I'm looking at what to get or what not to get, right? And so again, if you're strapped for cash, which I know most people are, um, you
Would
know,
you drop it? Would you drop it, Joe? That comic? Would you like? Are you hooked in now as a collector? This is what I find really intriguing.
I feel like I can't not finish out the two
Oh,
more. You know what
addict.
I mean? Yeah, that's my problem.
Oh yes, Joe. Yes, you're a proper addict. You're there.
Yeah. I feel like if I was going to drop something, at least right now, off of this list, if it doesn't change, like we talked about, a Spectacular Spider-Man, because again, if they don't start to move things along, I'm just be like, all right, well, it's been fun, but see you later.
I mean, Wiseman. It's Greg Wiseman who's writing it. I mean, he's weaving a decent tale.
It is. It is.
He's leading us in, but if issue, I think issue three will be the one, and then it'll be this is. I think that'll be a decent 6 issues, and then crank it another way. But
Yeah.
just because I mean, I don't know if I said it to you or I said it on one of my other videos with Spectacular Spider-Man. I thought it was Spectacular Spider-Man. I just thought it was another Spider-Man comic. And when I bought it, and I thought, oh, Miles Morales is in it as well. And that's my proper geeky old hog face, like, oh, Miles Morales. But I read it and I thought, yes, this is because I bought it because of Humberto Ramos's artwork
Yep.
uh, to give it a try. But I thought, oh, yeah, exciting.
It's good though. It is. It's good. And I haven't read many other Miles Morales comics. And I've heard from Miles Morales fans that the comics are not as good as like Across the Spider-Verse. And
That was beautiful.
yeah.
Yeah, that was a beautiful thing. My son had to convince me to watch that. I was going, no. You can see how miserable I've been in the past couple of years, Joe.
Yep.
It's been a struggle. It's been a struggle. So you only know me as happy
I
go lucky,
do.
your hog.
I'll tell you what, that's the only thing that Sony's gotten right are the animated Spider-Man movies.
Yes, yeah, yeah. Well, the animated Spider-Man. No, they've got the real life Spider-Mans, right? Have you enjoyed those?
Well, we're talking like the original, not original, but like Tobey Maguire, uh even with Tom Holland, stuff like that. Those are all good because they've been Marvel had their hand in it.
Yeah.
I didn't see Madam Web, but I heard not very good things. I'm not expecting very good things for Craven the Hunter, um, which got pushed back.
Yeah.
Um,
Have you read the original story,
of
Craig?
Craven,
Yeah.
I have not.
So the writer of uh, Goblin,
Oh,
J.M.
JMD. Yeah.
Yeah, J.M.D.
Yep.
He was the one that created the Craven. I think it's called the Craven Saga.
Okay.
Craven the Hunter and all that stuff around there. I think it was Mike Zeck that done the artwork. Obviously, Joe, I'm going way back in time here, but that is those stories. JMD's stories are the reason that Craven is even being made into a film.
Yeah. Yeah.
Craven the Hunter stuff. Anyway, I'm not. I keep looking up there. I'm not going to dig. I won't dig. Like start shuffling, but that anti-hero, that villain that you know how you like Doctor Doom,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
because it's a villain that makes sense.
Yep.
Like even Darth Vader, it's a villain that makes sense. He's not just evil for evil's sake. There's a mission there, but maybe that's not a good example actually. But Doctor Doom is a better example of
Yeah.
where in another, even Thanos,
Yeah.
you know, you just
He had his reasoning.
yeah, if you just looked 1 millimeter to the left or the right,
Yeah.
what he's talking about makes sense.
Yeah.
And I think that they are the most delicious villains.
They are.
It's
Like
crazy.
I look at like again my limited run of villains so far, but like Mr. Sinister, he is just a villain. He's twisted and
Yeah,
sick.
but
He
he's
has no reason to do what he's doing. He's just like, I just want to, genetically duplicate people and
yeah,
mess up their entire life.
and but sometimes that's good. I'm not saying we can't
Oh
have them.
no, no, yeah, totally,
Yeah,
totally.
but the longevity of it all. But yeah, so JMD did Craven.
Okay,
Yeah, if you are gonna your next leap back in time, if you
yeah,
enjoyed in comic book wise, if you enjoyed that Goblin Run, the Craven the Hunter stuff by JMD,
okay,
and I'm pretty sure that they will have ignored all of it for the film.
probably, probably.
they they would have gone. The producers and the directors would have gone. So I like this. Craven the Hunter. Oh, Spider-Man adjacent. I like it.
Yep.
Right now, what do we do? What
I don't even think there's gonna be a
Craven the Hunter?
Spider-Man in it.
And then there'd be someone in the corner of the office going, "How cool is his jacket with his big fur collar? Oh man, that looks really cool." But I'm being facetious now.
No, yeah,
So
no,
you
it's
you
okay.
have to stop me, Joe. You have to stop me doing that. Yeah,
It's
because
okay.
we are happy.
I
This is
mean,
a happy place. This is happy comics place.
I will say that Sony has dropped the ball big time on all
Well,
their live action stuff. But yeah. Anyway, do you have anything else on your list? Because
right. So
we've talked about pretty much all of my stuff.
yeah. So just to balance it out, there are three interlinked comics, all written by Jeff Johns, who did a lot of stuff for DC. I think he did Flash, and he's been about for forever and ever and ever. But by Image Comics, these three titles all come out this month. All different. They're all in the kind of Ghost Machine. They called it Ghost Machine imprint, but Geiger is the first one by Jeff Johns, Gary Frank. I'm trying to think of something that you might know that they would have done before. I'm sure they must have. Anyway, it doesn't matter. But so Geiger, these all creator owned stuff. Red Coat, that is brilliant. That is brilliant. That is like Pirates of the Caribbean meets the Patriot.
Oh,
It's awesome. Absolutely. All that is a rip roaring read. And Rook, which is a good sci-fi. So you've kind of got, your fantasy, your sci-fi. Rook is about in a kind of dystopian future where we all have to move on to another planet, but we get the Rook is and the funny bit I find is that these are the guardians of their particular species. So
okay.
they've got the helmet and the
Yep.
jacket.
Yep. Very much. Yeah.
But his best mate is Piggy, which I found highly hilarious. Highly hilarious. But nevertheless has all the powers.
Yep. Yep.
Uh, but what they're doing is they've gone for it straight. And I thought, oh, good, fair play to you. So you got your sci-fi, like dystopian sci-fi, apocalyptic. So
Okay.
this guy, a bit like Bruce Banner. He's been within. He got a bit too near that nuclear bomb. In so, and they're not connected as such, but they have given them all a timeline, and they are all written by Jeff Johns, who for me wrote the best run of the Flash ever. He's the one that modernized it. If you've watched the TV show, even the movies, and the New 52 comics, Jeff Johns is the one that give it its oomph. A bit like we're talking about Chris Cameron and John Byrne with X-Men.
Yep.
Anyone watches who appreciates anything about the X-Men today,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's not Lee and Kirby, really. It's
No. No.
because that was the Blob,
That
and
was,
you know
yeah, that's what I
that was,
that's what I'm saying. Like I read issue 1. I read more than issue
that
1.
was
I probably read the
Marvel
first 4 or
Girl.
5 issues.
Yeah,
And I'm like,
Marvel Girl. The
where as I'm reading it, I go, where are all the, like I know this is the original X-Men
that's
team,
it. Yeah,
but I'm like, where's the X-Men team? Where when does
you,
Wolverine come in?
it
When
was
does
like 40 years too early.
I was
You thought I can't live the Hog's life, and I can't read through 40 years of X-Men to get to where he is now.
I will not do that.
But it doesn't matter. But do you know what, though, Joe? I love the fact that you've delved back into the past. Like for me, as a comic collector, a comic reader, a comic geek, I absolutely love the medium of comics. I
Yeah.
absolutely
I mean, when I think
love it. But for you to go back,
comics,
but for you to go back, that's the bit I like.
yeah.
You've been booked and you had to go to the shop. It's a bit like it's a bit like hearing the Who or Black Sabbath, and you've got to go back to a record shop and get some vinyl. It's very akin to that, I think.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, when I think of comics, I think of like Bronze Age and like Silver Age, the way it's drawn, right? Like that's what I envision, right? When I see that or like when I think of it, like all of those, it's just like so classic. Just like the bright color,
Yeah.
the way things are drawn, the paneling, like it's just so classic comics. Not that what today is bad by any stretch of the imagination,
No,
but
no,
like that's the classic stuff, right? It's like
yeah.
so good.
And it is simple, and it's a bit like
Yeah.
TV in the day. You know,
Yeah.
whatever you like, whatever you was into, whether it was the Incredible Hulk TV show, Battlestar Galactica, or Charlie's Angels, $6 Million Man, you had one episode a week. And even when programs like X Files come out, where you had a monster a week, like season 1 and 2 of X Files, which is one of I think is one of the finest TV shows ever. That kicked off, that was groundbreaking.
Mhm.
It changed the format. It
Right.
wasn't just it started off as a monster a week, X Files, or a mystery a week,
Yep.
which was that, but it changed, and that was the start of that modern era of, oh, here's a whole series, and you can't jump in on episode 4 anymore. Like
Yep.
series 3, episode 4 of X Files, you're going, well, what, why is he doing that? And why is like no? And it's for good or ill that started that off. And I think it's the same with comics and films. I think we're all, it's just a different era.
It
That's
is.
why,
Yeah.
that's why I keep finding myself saying so much, Joe. When I'm recommending comics, I'm saying this will make a great trade paperback because
It's just better. Yeah.
it's, yeah, there's something about the format now that's getting
It
a little
is.
bit lost. And I can't, yeah, I will lament it. I will lament the passing of a once a month comic. I've got to, because I literally loved it. I loved picking up a comic and going, oh, bang, 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 bang. But I know, listen, time's moved
Right.
on. It has
Sure.
moved.
Yeah. I mean, I think for me, it's just so interesting to go back to read those classic comics. Part of it is like we talked about before, it's kind of like some of it's just kind of hokey, right? When you when you read it of like the Fantastic Four stuff and but like to me that's so good. It's like it's classic and it's funny and enjoyable, but also simple. It's so simple to the point like you don't need to have this like super duper huge imagination that you somewhat need now with all of the different worlds and multiverses and all this stuff. Not that I don't like it, but like sometimes it gets very like when I read through Ultimate Invasion, the most recent one, I
Yeah.
was kind of like confused somewhat of like what was happening, even
Oh,
though like I understood, but I was like, I need to double check some stuff because I'm like, what's
yeah.
happening? Where I'm like, when I read these old stories and comics, I'm not necessarily lost. Like I can comprehend what's happening. It's not like over the top or too crazy to know. Like you said, it's very simple. Um, and I think that also makes it enjoyable to read, at least for me.
And the one little thing on that subject, the one little thing. So when I was trying to get into the writing of comics back in the day, and so I start getting a couple of stories published by the UK publisher for war stories and that. So that led you on to 2000 AD, and from there led you on to Vertigo with DC or Marvel, Epic, Illustrator, blah blah. So Marvel sent me, and I don't know if you know this, like the Marvel way of writing, which
Mhm.
once you know it, when you read the old Bronze Age stuff, you can't, you can see it.
Oh yeah.
Within the first 6 pages of every Marvel comic in the 60s and 70s, up to a point, I don't know what the year would have been, where they changed it because obviously Jim Shooter come in and oh, who else? It was Roy Thomas come in, Jim Shooter. You know the. Anyway, we're getting into Marvel history now, so we'll forget that. But anyway, up until a point for a good 15 years of Marvel, within the first 6 pages of every comic, you had to know every character's powers and what happened last month. And do you know what? I love that. And I know sometimes that led to big word balloons with one of the characters saying, "Oh, I remember last week when we fought." when
But
we
that's
fought
that
that.
to me when I read that and I see it like when I'm going back to some of the old Fantastic Four stuff, like it's very like I don't know how to explain it. Like it's like that was the thing back in the day. Like it's you had no other way of knowing, really, besides if you read the previous issue, right? And
Yeah.
there was no other way to describe it, or they were like, well, this is important. They thought it was important, so we need to talk about it. And it's just I like getting those like old I think of just like this Stan Lee, like old school. It's like, well, if you were here last week, you would have known that,
Yeah.
blah blah
Yeah.
blah blah blah.
But when you are a prolific comic reader, all these publishers now, and I still love it all. I'm surrounded by it, but there are so many blank pages. There are blank back covers. There are blank inside front covers. There are blank spaces everywhere. They're not earning any revenue from advertising, so they're either advertising in house other comics from the same publishing house and blah blah blah. There are a very tiny few that just have previously on this. But when you are a prolific reader, that's really handy. And it might be an age thing, it might be a memory thing creeping in with me, Joe.
I
But,
do sometimes I do need some of
but
that sometimes though,
the
because it's
story,
been
the
a
story
while.
so far, the
Yeah,
story so far, or if you've just looked at you've seen an issue 2 of something in the comic shop and you think, oh, that looks sexy. The story so far, the issue 1 might be in second print by now, but or it might be you talk to the bloke behind the counter and he goes, "Oh yeah, I've got that in a box down there, yeah,"
yeah,
and you're in. You're in the
yep,
story so far, and I think
yep.
that's another lost start. Like, don't keep assuming that it's all about trade paperbacks. I know that's the future, and I know that if I was writing stuff now, I would love to have my trade paperback published in perpetuity. But don't don't do the floppies then. Don't do that.
Yeah,
If you're going to do that, don't
yeah. That's kind of how I feel
do.
almost. Like again, when I'm getting floppies, I'm thinking about something that one I'm going to like right now. Not that I wouldn't like it in a trade paperback, but part of it too is like the um social zeitgeist in the comic community, right? Of like talking about it. Like
That's
I
it.
can wait. Like if I wanted to, I could wait on Spectacular Spider-Man because it's not
Yeah.
as
No,
big
you
as
nailed it.
the other
No, you
ones, right?
did.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, yeah, I know exactly what you mean, Joe. You've nailed
Yeah,
it because what is almost becoming the floppies are almost becoming a marketing
pretty
tool
much.
for the trade. Like
Yep.
Ultimate Spider-Man trade paperback. Oh my god, when that's first released, it'll be like, issue 1 was in like 4th printing, and X-Men was in 5th printing, and we're
Yeah.
gonna print all the covers, which I don't, it's all good. Don't get me wrong,
Yeah.
I'm not down on that. But it's a shame that, yeah, the monthly floppy audience is lost, but it's minuscule now, to be fair. As the
It
actress,
is.
said to the bishop.
But I think since we're in it, right? You don't want to be left behind. That's like how I feel, right? It's like
Yeah,
you don't want to miss out. So at least on the major ones. And like upcoming, I thought I was only going to get probably just the original, not original, but like X-Men, just the standard X-Men once
yeah.
that like relaunches. But then I saw Uncanny X-Men. I'm like, I'm gonna have to get that too. I can't wait. I can't wait 3 months for it to be on Marvel Unlimited, and I can't wait
Sucker.
for the trade. I
Yes,
know.
yes, sucker.
However, I'm not too into like people are getting all of them, and there's like six, and some of those include like just like solo titles like Phoenix and
Yeah,
whatever.
a
And
lot
for
of
me,
the
unless it's someone that it's like I really enjoy as a character, I don't get those.
they could do a lot. I think if there was someone brave at Marvel that just went, this is X-Men now. A bit like what they've done at DC.
Yeah,
On this is Superman. All right, he's in Action Comics, but he's nowhere else. I know. All right, we forget about Batman because there's about 18 titles of that. But other than that, right, here's Green Lantern, here's
that's
Flash,
it.
here's
Yep,
that. I think Marvel could do. I mean, they're not far off, but I think it's only X
they're
Men.
not.
It's X Men and Spider Man where they drift off.
X-Men and Spider-Man. Yeah,
Yeah.
like for me, Spider-Man, I would love to jump on. Like, I'm probably gonna wait because I want to go back to read some of the original Amazing Spider-Man because those are classic. But
What
like,
what the Ditko stuff way back in the
yeah,
day.
yeah.
Oh, bless you. Yeah,
But
that.
like,
Yeah. Well, it's the formative stuff.
yeah. But then you have Spectacular Spider-Man. You have Spider-Punk. You have all of these whatever, right? And I'm like, this is too many to keep up and read. It's all different story. Like Superior Spider-Man. I've heard good things about Superior Spider-Man, and I
Mm,
would read that, and I do want to, but I'm willing to just wait until it's mostly out on Marvel Unlimited. I'm
yeah,
okay.
yeah. You just got to weave your way through.
Yeah,
Yeah, in that comic, because there are still a lot of floppy, like monthly floppies. There are still a
yeah.
lot out there, and what is worth your buck.
I
And
mean,
that subject, Marvel, they are not afraid of marking up those comic books. They're not afraid of it. I mean, DC have stolen the march on Marvel for just pricing their. I mean, I noticed, that World's Finest I showed you earlier on.
mhm,
The issue before that, they said oversized spectacular. They charged $1 more. They charged $4.99 for it,
yeah.
$3.99.
Like I think,
Back to $3.99. Marvel, oh,
yeah. No,
God,
no.
I mean that got like God's issue 1.
Well, I didn't pick that up, but yeah.
I mean, what, $10 was that?
I know that because I'm so like for me, Doom, right, is coming out next month, just the one shot. I think it's like 50 to 60 pages, somewhere around there. Like a bigger issue, right? But I think it's 7.99,
Yeah.
but I'm already gonna pay for it. Like,
Yeah.
because I'm invested in Doom, which is fine. But like they don't the thing that gets me is they have these huge events like Blood Hunt is this next big thing. And I'm not super into like vampires. It's not really my thing. So I'm not like invested in this. Obviously, it's going to be worked into other runs,
Yeah.
but they're just like creating so many like side things that if you are invested in it, you pretty much don't have a choice. But this thing is like it's like huge, like massive. And I'm like,
It's
who
too,
has all the money?
yeah, it's too much. And I mean, I will put my hand up right now. And it's only because and this is my excuse, I've loved the Marvel horror stuff from day one. So if you're looking at Ghost Rider and Blade and
Blade. Yeah.
that from the 70s. I collect all that, and I'm into it. And Pepe Larraz, who's on the artist
Yep.
who's on the main story. Did you get
Yep.
a Big Game, which is the Mark Millar story that he drew for Image? He's a great artist. So it's Marvel horror. It's a good artist. It's all the characters I love. Like for me, like it's like going to be like a tractor beam. I'm going to hate myself, but it's going to be a.
Yeah.
But
See, I don't have that problem.
they do it. Let's see, DC did Night Terrors last year, so they launched the Dawn of DC, which got me after 4 or 5 decades of comic collecting. It got me into DC. It really did. I thought,
Yeah.
well, it's a good creative teams, interesting. I'll try issue 1. What have I got to lose? Blah blah.
Right.
And then they stopped it to do this multi-universal and
Yeah.
multiverse and all the shit, the crossovers and the crap. I hate it now. I really detest it. But they stopped it all, and it was so jarring because they just went, right, we're
We're
stopping
done.
every new DC character we've just told you to love, and we're doing night. We're doing Night Terrors. This horror crossover of all the characters, and you've got to buy issue 4 of that and issue 6 of this, and continued in issue 8 of that. And I just
Too
thought,
much.
you know what? No, I'm not doing it. And I'm like
Too
that with
much.
Blood Hunt. I'm gonna get the mini, the original,
Yep.
like the main mini series, because it's Pepe Larraz. I don't know who's writing it actually. I've forgotten, but
I'm not sure.
um, and I am driven by the artwork. But and
Yeah.
like I say, I do like, and the Blade, like the Blade run, that Blade issue 10 I showed you earlier. It did say it leads into Blood Hunt. So
Mm.
like, oh yeah, I'm
See, I'm not
primed.
a horror. I'm not a horror guy, so I'm not. I don't feel like I'm missing out on anything.
Oh, do you know what then, Joe? I'd give it a miss. It's a bit like if they was going to do an X-Men and an Avengers crossover right now.
Yeah.
Instead
Yeah.
of Blood Hunt, if they said X-Men Avengers, I'd go, well, so what? I'm not getting X-Men and I ain't getting Avengers because they're all lame. They're not my X-Men and they're not my Avengers. So you just go, no, I'll save me money for back issues.
Yeah. Exactly. I think. Yeah. For
So,
me, I don't. Coming up, I don't see much more that I'm going to end up adding because some of this is going to end up ending on my pull list because it's short runs for the most part, with the exception of like the ultimate stuff, basically. I'm only going to be adding the ultimates. I think I'm going to add X-Men and Uncanny X-Men just to see how
no,
that goes.
I'm looking actually on that subject now, Joe. I'm looking forward to the X-Men stuff.
Yeah,
That's my jump. That's the jump on point
it is pretty much.
I've been waiting for
Yep.
since 1987. I don't know why. Since Chris Claremont left, when he left, I abandoned the X-Men. No, no, it's not
But
that bad. I have picked up like the Joss Whedon run. That was astonishing X-Men. I mean,
that's what I heard. Yeah.
we could do a show on the X-Men.
But beyond that, I don't think
No,
there's
so
not much else new coming out on my, from what I can tell, unless they haven't solicited all the other new stuff yet,
well,
which they
you
might not have.
obviously haven't been listening to my recommendations, then, Joe, have you?
Well, I'm kind of
If you've got money to burn,
I'm
if
kind
you've
of
got money
zoned in on
to
Marvel. I'm kind of zoned in on Marvel,
burn, no,
and
don't zone in. Spread your wings.
uh, I don't know.
Don't
Well,
make
I
that.
want to go back. I want to go back and read some of like the
Oh, that's cool.
Fantastic Four stuff. I'm kind
Oh,
of really digging them right now.
they're
So
not going to go far wrong doing X-Men, FF, and Spider-Man. That Ditko run. It's all Stan Lee. You got
yeah,
Ditko on Spider-Man, Kirby on FF, and
yeah.
Kirby. Oh, you ain't
I'm kind of digging the Fantastic Four right now. So
that run. There was that run, and I don't know if you've seen some Marvel people on threads have been putting a couple of bits on there, and it might be you as well involved, but there was that run.
suppose from all of the stuff that I've looked up on Fantastic Four, right? Like Lee Kirby, There's Wade Waringo. A lot of people tote that one.
No, I don't know about that one. I don't know about that one. John Byrne's run.
John
Actually,
Byrne, yeah.
Chris Claremont and John Byrne on X-Men. That
Yeah.
run he did on the FF was also superb. They are two of the best runs of comics. But even if you had to pick a top 3 run of comic books, that Lee Kirby run on FF around the time when it was Galactus, Silver Surfer, etc., etc., that kind of block of, I don't know what it would have been from issue 40 something. I mean, it was the 50s.
Yeah. Yeah.
In my collection, I haven't got the Silver Surfer trilogy because they're the ones that are worth a gazillion quid.
Of
But
course.
before and after, and you've got Black Panther in there, and it was, fantastic runs of comics. They are.
That's kind of my plan. Although I bounce all over the place all the time. So
That's a good plan, and you've kind of got a family and a life as well. So you have
yeah, which
every
I
now and
enjoy.
then you have to factor that in, Joe. Don't you?
I do. I do have to factor that in. I feel like there are times when I'm reading so much, and
Yeah.
then there are times when I'm like, man, it's been like days since I've read a comic book.
I was going to say hours. Where did
It does feel like that
those 6
sometimes.
hours go?
I try to read one a day. I think the easy thing is like I can just flip on Marvel Unlimited on my phone and just like read through. It's not the greatest reading experience because it's on a small little screen, but I make my eyes bleed for it. So
Yeah. Yeah, I will hurt myself for my hobby. Yes. Yeah. How much I love it. But Joe, right? I think we'll on your self punishment. We'll leave it there. How much pain you're willing to go through for this hobby?
it's too much. It's too much.
No, it's not. It's never. No,
It's
Joe,
not.
you're wrong. It's never enough.
Agreed.
It's never
No.
enough. No, it's been brilliant, Joe. Thank you ever so much for joining me again
Thank you again. Thank you.
for doing the old review. And well, I'm sure we'll think up a special to do.
Yeah. I didn't give too many recommendations for people to check out. So
I know, yeah, really, these videos really. When
mm,
the idea for these monthly videos was like, I don't know, it's going to
yeah.
be supposed to be 20 minutes, but you just keep rabbiting. I'm all right. I can stop talking.
Oh,
Shut
yeah,
up.
that's true. That's true.
Shut up. You no.
Well, I mean, you might still be looking through some of your bins if you didn't stop yourself. So
God, mate. I'm just looking through bins. Oh, I don't know where.
that would do well on the watch time. Just Roy searching through the bins.
Or what I should really do is stop it.
Mm,
Just stop it for a while because I can't. They're all on here in front of me everywhere. But anyway, but I love it. I don't know why I'm saying that because I don't
I
care.
know. Yeah. Hey,
Yeah,
if you love it, no problem.
thank you so much, Joe.
Thank you
Always,
for having me.
always a pleasure talking to you because I like the fact that you are like fresh into the hobby, and it's so nice to compare and contrast. And what I do love is how you want to delve into the past of it all as well. So and if you won the lottery, you can buy all those original issues, the Fantastic Four, buy all the original issues of everything. Like so, no, I love it, mate.
Thank
So
you. Well,
until
thank you for having me.
no problem, Joe. Until next time, mate. I'm gonna bid you adios.
Adios. Yeah.